Just before we continue on with our show, ladies and gentlemen, guys, we got a lot to talk about. I want to first of all thank our good friends over at Hero Soap Company for sponsoring our podcast. Now we are still with Vocal Brace, but we got the new Hero Soap Company logo at the top. Guys, if you want to support a great company for a great cause, go on over to herosoapcompany.com. Use my promo code Huddle Up. That's HUDDLEUP and use that at herosoapcompany.com. They got all the great products with all your soaps, all of your conditioners, your shampoos, everything that you could possibly need to build yourself up, to continue to get yourself in a position to where you are going to be able to be at your very best. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and let's just go ahead and get into this real fast. Guys, we have a lot to talk about today. First of all, breaking news just coming around about 2 hours ago. Sac State has officially filed the paperwork with the NCAA to transition from the FCS to the FBS. Guys, we've seen a lot of teams do this. And to be honest with you, I don't really have a problem with that. I love that we have things like this occur. I love the fact that we see more of the FCS moving up to the FBS. I would consider Sac State with where they are at, especially with what they're building with Brennan Marion, very, very intriguing stuff of what's going on. And look, I have a lot of interesting takes to go along with this, but I think it's deserved. I really think that we need to take this very, very seriously. And guys, the fact of the matter is that we're entering a stage in college football where this is going to become very, very common. You're going to see more FCS programs transition to that FBS level. Guys, where is everybody at, by the way? I mean, come on. Where we at on X, man? Where we at? Anyways, they would be an independent transitioning. So let me tell you about Sac State football. So my biggest thing about why they're doing this is because of all that Brennan Marion is bringing to the table. Now, we're talking about a team that, in retrospect in college football, not the greatest history. Started off 71 years ago, not the greatest. I don't think they've only been in the FCS level since 93. They were a D2 program for, I think, 3 years before. And then here they come. You know, you talk about guys like Troy Taylor that was there that just got fired from Stanford. You're talking about a team that went on a 3-year run where you made it to at least the second round in 21 or in 22 and 23 and in 21. But yet you haven't been able to get over that clear hurdle. You've been able to compete at a high level. And look, Sac State, for where it's at, been an incredible rise. They've made some big, big moves. Yes, I know you have a lot that ended up transferring out. Guys, you still have a lot that you can be excited for at the next level. I am really intrigued with a guy like Brennan Marion, who brings a lot of offensive experience at his position, who to me is one of the bright young offensive minds in football. Brennan Marion is a guy that I thought is one of the best young and upcoming offensive minds in football. It wasn't that long ago. to me, it just seems like every Tulsa quarterback that was in the Gus Malzahn era from 2006 to 2009. Well, I say that, but from the Gus Malzahn era. Bottom line is this, guys. You have had a lot of success with guys that have come through Tulsa. There have been many, many quarterbacks that you have been granted the opportunity to see succeed. And it's truly been remarkable to see the rise of a program like Sac State, who realistically has gone on to have incredible careers, whether it be at the next level, whether it be at another place, whether it be bottom line, guys, it doesn't matter. You know, we look at guys that have come through the Tulsa lineup and have gone on to go have great careers as coaches. You know, you talk about guys like David Johnson, who went on to be the offensive coordinator at Missouri Southern, D2 program, around the Texas area as a high school coach. You know, we talk about guys that like GJ Kinney, who was there near the end of that era that included Gus Malzahn. He was in that area, guys. You talk about Brennan Marion, who's there. James Killian, who's now the head coach over at St. Olave's. Guys, James Killian recruited me out of high school. Guys, St. Olave's is a great program, by the way, too. Coming off of their best year that they've had in a while. And Brennan Marion is going to bring a swagger that Sac State is going to love. He has a lot of experience in many different offenses. Passing game coordinator with Sark in 22. You talk about a guy that was a running backs coach at Oklahoma Baptist, was at Howard for a little while. William and Mary finally got his mark at the P4 level at Hawaii. Goes to Pitt with Pat Narduzzi. And then he gets his first shot at UNLV with Barry Odom, who takes a shot on him. You know, and I love Barry Odom. And I love what he's done just bringing dudes in. You brought in 5 dudes. Actually, I think, 5 dudes from UNLV into your program. Guys, I thought that was incredible that you were able to do that. And it goes to show you the type of talent that comes from a program like that and what you can build off of teams like that. You know, I think a guy like Brennan Marion can really elevate a lot of guys that haven't really gotten the respect that they deserve. Sac State is going to be a team that is going to be in the running in the FCS with Brennan Marion and company. I'm not saying they're going to have transition from a 3-9 program under Andy Thompson and then immediately be a top 25 program. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is this: the building blocks for success will come eventually for Brennan Marion and company. And I think it starts with him taking the helm at Sac State, having them get to that elevation with going to the FBS level. Guys, Brennan Marion is a guy that has a lot of swagger to him. I've mentioned that already. But when I tell you about the amount of swagger this kid has, dude, it's unmatched. I don't think anybody can ever really match what type of swagger that this cat has. It is almost scary to look at. But regardless of that, guys, I think that Marion is going to be your OC as well as your head coach at the end of the day. You didn't have a lot of guys that ended up entering the portal, only about 10, if that. But I think overall, you're happy with where this team is at with a guy like Marion at the helm. I think they can make a smooth transition. Is it going to take time? Yes. Is it going to end up being one where it's going to be difficult at the start? Absolutely. Do I think that they're going to be the next JSU? Probably not, knowing their history. But I think they would fit in well in the new transition of the Pac-12, which I think is going to end up happening. They're going to end up starting off as FBS independent for about a year or two, and then they're going to transition into the Pac-12. And I think it's an interesting move. I don't disagree with what they're trying to do. I really love it. You know, and I think with what you have being having two splash hires, not just for football, but you also got a guy like Mike Bibby, who's now the head basketball coach there. You're still in the Big Sky Conference, which in my opinion is still one of, if not the hardest conference in all of the FCS. I know the Missouri Valley would like to have a word, but overall, guys, I think that there's a lot of intriguing prospects that you can look at with Sac State and say, maybe they might have some success. NIL-wise, you're gaining a lot of funds. You know, this was a team that is announcing plans for a new multi-use football stadium. The NIL efforts have surged. They managed to raise $35 million in NIL funds, then ended up surpassing the $50 million goal. So they're going to end up being in the Pac-12 very soon. I'm not saying it's going to happen a year after they're in the independents, but I do think that it's only a matter of time before you get them in there. So I do really love what they're going to bring to the table. And with what you have to show, and with what Sac State has shown to be a national blue blood in the near future, I have a lot of enthusiasm with what's to come in the near future. Okay. So let's continue on. Apart from Sac State, because there's still a lot to talk about when it comes to the NIL era. So we talked yesterday about Kirby Smart calling out the NCAA versus House Committee. And we all know at this point, April 7th is going to be a landmark day in college football. Why do I say that? Because you're talking about the future where revenue sharing is going to be very, very more open to competition. There's going to be a lot more than just the $20.5 million budgets that coaches are going to have when it comes to NIL money. Guys, the outside sources are still there. So that budget's going to increase. So when you have programs like a Georgia or an Alabama or an Ohio State generate more NIL revenue, it shouldn't be to anyone's real surprise. We have seen this happen on a daily basis. It's happened multiple times, guys. It's happening to the point where this is starting to be a regular thing, where it's not really just about the revenue sharing, guys. It is about what you can do to be at a competitive advantage. Initially, this is what NIL was about. It was about putting your jersey in the student store, whatever they call it, and you have jerseys flying off the racks. That's what this is about. Now you got major brands coming in, like United Airlines, like Gatorade, like any others that are coming in and really stealing the spotlight. And to be honest with you guys, this is not what NIL was intended to be. It is turned into a pay for play. And it's affecting high school recruiting. We've mentioned that plenty of times, guys. But, anyways, back to the topic. April 2nd is going to be an incredible year because of just what is going to happen in the near future for college football. With the distribution of what's to come, it's going to be another death blow to the NCAA. And really, it's one that I think is going to damage their reputation even more. They've been taking punch after punch after punch after punch. And eventually, we're going to get to the end of the decade, maybe, and the NCAA be dissolved. We won't have the issues of, the NCAA is denying Colorado and Syracuse for a joint practice / scrimmage, which, by the way, we need to have in college football. We'll get to that in a little bit. Their power is starting to slowly slip from their grip. And it's one where you have to really consider what is going to happen in the near future. You have to consider about where the NCAA has to go from there. And it's a very concerning thing to think about when you have as many blows as the NCAA has taken over the last, let's say, year or so. And yet you're still seeing the NCAA still have some sort of power. It's very, very big news for this. Guys, it's very interesting to see this. And it's really impressive to see the NCAA still standing. Guys, let me tell you about the biggest fraud in the NCAA and Charlie Baker. Charlie Baker is the one that, let me remind you guys, that, by the way, he is the former governor of Massachusetts. Governor Baker, as that's what we have to call him, has screwed the piss out of the NCAA. When you get a guy in there like Charlie Baker, who, by the way, is the biggest fraud ever, who, by the way, has not done anything to help men get out of women's sports. Let's just make that very clear. Which, by the way, this is what he said, is that when he gets federal legislation for NIL deals that would standardize contracts, provide a national clearinghouse for oversight and require agents to register with the federal government. That's not right. It is not right. They are private practices. Guys, agents are private. You can't just have them register for that. That's just illegal. It's not, it's part of our Constitution. You can't do that. He's a freaking fraud. And they're like, oh, D2 and D3 colleges are likely to convert their teams into club sports to avoid recruiting student athletes. They're already doing that right now. That's why you see majority of D2 and D3 programs that are private colleges. They can't afford to give scholarships already. Guys, NIL is not very lucrative at the D2 and D3 level. Unless you're a superstar athlete and probably the best D2 player in the nation, which even then, it's going to be hard to get traction. It's going to be very, very hard to even get any sort of mo at this point in time. Oh, God. But I think that at the end of the day, we'll talk about this one really fast. But again, guys, I mean, we're talking about something that is really, really stupid. That I think that Charlie Baker has screwed not just the athletes, but also the coaches as well into this. Real fast, guys. Let's talk about this. Standout defensive tackle Kalen Saunders says he's hosting an LGBTQ youth football camp. The NFL is a very male dominant and heterosexual dominant, and it feels as though there's not really space for the LGBTQ community. What? Well, let's leave the comments. You want to do where for how many cookies? The NFL is not supposed to be male dominant. Confused. That's what I'm saying. It is male dominant. It's supposed to be. Can they run block? That's the real question. Oh God. This has got to be an April Fool. Oh my God. Love seeing this. Speaking facts for oh my God. Okay. That's enough of the comments. Let's just react to this. This is so stupid. How stupid does this have to be? That are we being for real? Really? Really? Who is really going to go to that? That's my question. It doesn't seem to make much sense. In my opinion, that none of this makes sense. It just doesn't seem to resonate with the game of football. Oh, we got to host a football camp for gay people. What? How many gay people are really interested in the game of football? Give me a few. Y'all can hate me if you want because of my comments, but guys, let's just be honest. There's not a lot. And you may not like me for what I say, but I mean, come on, guys. What are we doing? I mean, it just makes no sense to host something like this. Whoever decided that this was a good idea is a freaking joke. That's enough of this. Let's talk about some of the best that's going in the portal. Two big names, by the way, that is going in the transfer. So we got to talk about one name that I think is really, really interesting, and that's North Alabama's linebacker Josh Anglin. So here was a guy that I thought was arguably one of the more dominant linebackers in the FCS last year. And I think he was also a finalist for the Jerry Rice Award. Guys, he was a damn good linebacker. True freshman campaign. Let's take a look at him from the recruiting aspect. So he was at Mill Creek High School out in Georgia. Won a state championship. 117 tackles as a senior. So he's a really smart kid, by the way. Looking at his high school stats, there isn't a whole lot that he has. He only had a walk-on opportunity at Mississippi State, and then Eastern Kentucky and North Alabama gave him an offer. According to what I have right here, I don't think that it is actually true. But regardless of this, guys, 81 tackles, 7 TFLs, 1.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 1 PBU in his true freshman campaign. Was a Freshman of the Year finalist, FCS Freshman All-American, and a United Athletic Conference Freshman of the Year. This guy's the total package, guys. This dude is a dog as a linebacker. And we'll go over his film in just a little bit and really see with what he's going to have at the end of the day. Heard a lot of guys some that were with Dog HQ. He's a very productive player. I had him in several camps and all-star games, always showed up. I bet a lot of teams are on this one, as they should, by the way, guys, because guys like Josh Anglin are going to really make a difference at the end of the day. And does it suck that a guy like this is leaving this late into the portal? I don't think you can leave until you get into your after the spring where you can actually to enter the portal. But dude, you're gonna get a guy when you talk about Josh Anglin. Josh Anglin is a really, really dominant offensive line, really dominant uh defensive player. You know, he came from Mill Creek, and I thought he did really well as a linebacker. And I think that overall, I think that he can really do some damage at the end of the year with his skill set. I think he should be a very highly touted linebacker. I think he's going to do really well. Initially started off as a DB, put on some size, got himself as a linebacker. But yeah, man, I think that there's a whole lot more than what you're going to lose out on a guy like Anglin. I think he's a really, really dominant linebacker. Any team is going to be really impressed to get a guy like that. Amarion Peterson is also entering the transfer portal, according to 247's Mike Roach. He was a guy that really didn't have a lot of touches throughout the game, but did get a lot of playing time in the bowl game against Texas A&M. Four-star guy, was a top 400 recruit in the class of 23, top 30 running back. I think he probably ended himself up back at an SEC school. I don't know what he's going to do at the next level. I know that there is a lot of opportunity that people can give for a kid like this. I think he has a lot of big play capability. That's why he was one of the best coming out of high school. That's why he was a top 30 running back. And I think that he rightfully deserves it. So my thing is this. What are you going to do at the end of the day with a guy like Amarion Peterson? I think Amarion Peterson could probably end up being an SEC guy or a Big 12 guy. I think he'd fit in perfectly. I know Colorado is looking to look for another running back. Where is he from, actually? He's from Wichita Falls, Texas. So I think a Big 12, maybe Baylor, maybe Houston could take a stab at him. He still has a lot of productivity in him. I know he didn't get a whole lot of playing time at the end of the day, but you got to look at what his high school's tapes showed, because there was a reason why. He's a very powerful back, north and south runner, doesn't stop after initial contact. I think he's going to do really well at the next level, and I think he's going to perform at an all-time high whenever it comes to his ability to dominate in open space and really take charge at his running back position. Mel Tucker is back in the news. We talked about how he was on the run last week. Well, now they're under investigation for alleged recruiting violations under Mel Tucker. So they're unclear with how the severity of the allegations are. So remember, now that you're talking about Michigan State looking to make the case for an entirely new coaching staff, now that Jonathan Smith is getting ready for his second season as head coach. So it's going to be a matter of time. Maybe before spring gets done, maybe we'll see a completely new staff finally be vitalized with Jonathan Smith, because it's one where there's going to be a lot more than what is uncovered initially. Because you talk about what is going on in all over that area and all over with what the current landscape is at Michigan State. And as soon as that gets posted, by the way, the Kalen Saunders thing, AB has his of the day. Yeah. Anyways, so that's all that's going on up in there. Instagram is kind of screwing up for me. We're going to take a break real fast. We'll take a 2-minute break. Yes, again, want to thank our good friends at herosoapcompany.com. Also want to thank our friends at vocalbreaks.com. Use code LucasHill10 at checkout to get 10% off of your first monthly purchase when you use code LucasHill10 at vocalbreaks.com. Use code HuddleUp at checkout for Hero Soap Company.
Are you a music producer, DJ, or just someone who loves to remix tracks? Well, say goodbye to messy, low-quality track separations and hello to vocalbreaks.com, the most powerful AI-driven music editing tool on the market. Unlike other separation tools, Vocal Breaks harnesses the most advanced AI model available, delivering crystal clear vocals, pristine instrumentals, and an unmatched precision, all online with no software required. You can extract vocals or instrumentals with studio quality accuracy. It's perfect for remixes, mashups, karaoke, and music production, and for a faster, cleaner, and more reliable than any other service. So if you want the best, don't settle for less. Go on over to vocalbreaks.com and use code LucasHill10 now and experience the full future of AI-powered music editing. That's vocalbreaks.com using code LucasHill10.
Elevate your daily routine with the Hero Soap Company, a veteran-owned business dedicated to crafting high-quality, natural soaps right here in the U.S. of A. Each bar is handmade in Phoenix, Arizona, using premium natural ingredients sourced from American companies, ensuring a product that's both effective and environmentally conscious. With invigorating scents like peppermint and tea tree and soothing blends like lavender, there is a perfect match for everyone. But Hero Soap Company is more than just great soap. A portion of every sale is donated to charities supporting veterans and first responders, helping to give back to those who serve our communities. So visit our good friends at herosoapcompany.com today and use promo code HuddleUp to receive 10% off of your first purchase. Hero Soap Company, let freedom clean. Always a pleasure to partner with some of our favorite brands. I know Hero Soap Company has been awesome to us. So let's go ahead and dive some more into this, man. I mean, we have a lot that I think many people don't need to have been really waiting for. So we got into the mini headlines that we talked about. We got to get into the big ones today. So on today's episode, we got to start having joint practices and scrimmages in college football. Let me tell you why. What Deion Sanders and Fran Brown proposed at the beginning of this month, or not at the beginning of this month, but earlier, I think a couple weeks ago, when they proposed their game, that what they wanted, I thought it would have been a great idea. In my personal opinion, is that when you have all that you have seen in college football, with spring games getting canceled, with the tampering, with all of that BS, wouldn't it be time for joint practices if this the case? Why does the NCAA not want joint practices? I understand that you're talking about this in the springtime, but yes, I am drinking a gallon of milk. What you going to do about it? Fight me. But when we talk about joint practices, the NFL does it during the summertime, during their OTAs. High school does it. Cali JUCOs do it. I don't know if any other JUCOs do it, but I would be pretty damned to say that they don't. But I know that this is a very touchy subject for some people because they're not all into this. Guys, we got to have these joint practices. I think that it would benefit college football for the better. I think it would elevate the brand. I think overall this would be a perfect idea. I think what Dion proposed at the beginning or at the middle of April or in the middle of March, I thought it was a brilliant idea. I love the idea of having this. I love the idea of what we're going to bring. And I think with what is going to happen in college football, with more of the tampering BS and with spring games getting canceled, why wouldn't you just have a joint practice between the two? I know people don't like it, and I know people are going to say, well, it's just going to impact tampering more. Okay, we'll see. Because let me tell you, it don't matter if there's spring games or spring games all over the country. Tampering is still going to happen. Because of where the NCAA is at this point. Like I said, I mentioned this yesterday. We get rid of the NCAA. We put contracts in place for NIL along with the national letter of intent that says you are to remain at this school for X amount of years. After that, you can go and explore somewhere else if you choose to do so. Failure to abide by these contract rules and agreements will result in lost money. And by the way, you're going to court for trying to get out of a contract that, oh, you didn't like. And, oh, I didn't read the fine print. Well, guess what? That's your fault. That's your fault, dude. So you better fix this in college football. If y'all want to avoid this, if y'all want to avoid the tampering, you need to do that at your level. Start getting contracts. Get these kids educated. We can't have this anymore. Because, my God, we've got kids that are 16 and 17 years old getting offered 6-7 figure contracts, and they don't know what the hell they're looking at. And they're having these private agents come in and say, well, you got to do this, this, and this. Where are the parents' consultation at as well? Are the parents involved in this? If they're not, then that's a problem too. Got to be able to do this, man. You have to be able to have some sort of stability when it comes to this. You're going to screw yourself if that isn't the case. So, my suggestion to you is, can you be able to make a big boy decision and really implement some of the strategies that are in the high school and NFL level and bring them together? Or are you just going to be the same organization you've been the last several years? We'll just see. The NFL draft, everybody's shocked because according to something that I saw earlier, the Browns and the Titans have decided to not draft a quarterback, according to some sources. So this is not all confirmed, but it is very likely that this will be the case. Now, why do I say that? But here's why I say that is in the world of collegiate, in the world of the NFL right now, this is a very weak draft class. Quarterback class wise, you don't have a household name, which I think, by the way, we should do a 2026 way too early mock draft in 20, which I think would be really interesting because you look at where's in there. We talk about Arch Manning. We talk about Garrett Nussmeier that's going to be really good. You know, Drew Allar, who I think could be a top 10 quarterback at the next level. We're looking at potentially 6 quarterbacks that could end up going round 1. Lenore Sellers could also be one. DJ Lagway can't enter, so we'll see what happens there. But you get my point, guys. 2026 is going to be a really, really fun year when it comes to the quarterback rankings. You talk about them. You talk about Nico Iamaleava. You talk about Sam Leavitt, Jackson Arnold, Garrett Nussmeier, Kay Klubnik, Haynes King, Carson Beck. All of these guys that probably have a higher ceiling than what this quarterback draft class looks like, because you only have 2 household names and that's it. Next year, on the other hand, has a lot that you could potentially have. Specifically, when we talk about Nussmeier, when we talk about Lenore Sellers, and when we talk about Arch Manning. And Kate Klubnik as well. My thing is this, guys. Are you going to be able to are you waiting for 26 or are you going out in free agency? Because this is how Sheduer's timeline has gone. It started off at the beginning of the year. He was going to be the number 1 overall pick. And then, boom, Cam Ward comes into play and dominates the landscape. And you're like, okay, well, maybe Cam Ward has something to say as number 1 overall pick. Then it was solidified at the NFL Draft Combine and said, okay, Cam's going number 1. I mean, this dude is a freak. Not to mention during the East-West Shrine Bowl, whenever Sheduer didn't participate, which I don't think really hindered it, but I think people did take notice of it. And from what he said as well, people were talking about, oh, well, he's going to go to the Giants because he's talking about, oh, we're going to face the Giants. I can't wait to be in Dallas twice a year. You know, that's probably what's going to happen, but they haven't had the meetings yet. But I think the conversation started to widen once free agency started. People were saying, okay, well, maybe the Browns are going to draft Travis. Maybe the Giants are going to get someone else. Maybe they're going to get a Abdul Carter or something else. But we'll see. We're going to go ahead and draft another generational talent. We're going to draft Sheduer at 6 going to Oakland or going to Las Vegas. Then you sign Geno Smith to a long-term extension. Okay, now there's a lot of controversy. Then you think, okay, well, maybe the Jets will take him. Maybe Aaron Rodgers is going to retire. In comes Justin Fields. Oh, crap. And then now you have this news coming out. Now, where do you think Sheduer is going to go? Well, we had, if you remember, a couple weeks ago when we had our first initial mock draft, I had Sheduer going 9 to New Orleans. Sheduer in New Orleans would be very interesting. Let me just tell you from a New Orleans Saints perspective and someone that has covered the New Orleans Saints. You get bring in a new head coach in Kellen Moore. You got an experienced veteran in Derek Carr. You've got a guy that you drafted last year in Spencer Rattler that you were like, okay, well, we've seen year 1 of him. The kid still has a lot of growth to get to, but I think he'll end up being a backup for the rest of his career. We don't know what that ceiling is going to look like, but that's what we have projected as of now. Sheduer in New Orleans is interesting. And I think him in the top 10 is not out of the ordinary. That certainly wouldn't be good. And I think it's one that should really be considered. Of course, Field Yates says Sheduer is going to go to New York. In my opinion, that may not happen. That may not happen at all. But I do think that New Orleans does go for an edge rusher, so that's why they're going to pass on Sheduer. So then there comes the case. Well, who do you get now? Pittsburgh is there. Pittsburgh needs a quarterback. Both of their quarterback cues are gone. Dude, I mean gone like the wind. But who do you have in that case? Well, going into 2025, this is who you have at the quarterback position. You have Mason Rudolph and you have Skylar Thompson. Both of those guys, they're not your long-term solutions. I think you got Thompson through free agency. And overall, guy, I don't see a future for Thompson. So That's my take on that. Mason Rudolph, we already know. I don't think he's going really much of anywhere. Spent 1 year in Tennessee, and then he's back in Pittsburgh, probably as your full-time QB up until you start getting a new Q. So what do you do from here? I think that if Sheduer ends up falling to Pittsburgh, which I will be shocked if he does. I would be shocked if he falls completely out of the top 10. And by the way, after you get past New Orleans, that's when the quarterback question starts to take fold. Indianapolis has their guy. Miami has their guy. Dallas, San Francisco, Atlanta, Arizona, Cincinnati, Seattle, Tampa Bay. We could have said Seattle if they didn't get a guy like Sam Darnold. Tampa Bay, Denver. Then you get to Pittsburgh. But what if he falls past Pittsburgh? What if that's the case? I don't think it will be, but what if that is the case? Green Bay could do the same thing. Maybe they could. Maybe LA could go for it. Maybe LA can go get a quarterback. What if they're willing to take a chance on Sheduer? Have him learn under Matt Stafford? It certainly wouldn't be out of the ordinary. But for now, I think Sheduer, his likely landing spot is New York. That's where I have him at. But now with this report, we don't know if this is going to be for sure. New Orleans or Pittsburgh. That's the only two places I have him going. Anywhere else is out of there because there's such a small market for the quarterback this year that it's almost hard for you to find a team that would fit for Sheduer. Now, I'm still of the opinion that if Vegas or New York drafts him, then you're sitting him behind either Aaron Rodgers to develop, or you're sitting him behind Geno Smith, who is a lengthy veteran and has pretty much the same skill set as Sheduer. Either or, it's a lot to think about. It's one that has to be considered in the next few years for your long term of your organization. And is it worth taking a risk like that in the top 10? And I'm hearing a lot of talk about Jackson Dart being a first round quarterback. Watching him at the Senior Bowl, I think that he does end up, it would not surprise me if he does go first round. But I will say this as well. I don't know if it will securely happen. Why do I say that? Is because I don't see a scenario where Jackson Dart is a solid choice as a quarterback. And this is nothing that's a knock on Jackson Dart. I think he's a very, very good quarterback. 6'2", 223, and a 30-inch arm. I think he's a really productive quarterback. I think he showed that throughout his Ole Miss tenure. My thing is this. Look at Ole Miss quarterbacks in the past and look at Lane Kiffin quarterbacks in the past. Not the greatest. You've coached Matt Leinart, who didn't perform well at the next level. You've had Matt Barkley. You've had many, many, many more quarterbacks that have gone through. And really none that have solidified themselves as top quarterbacks apart from coaching Jalen Hurts in his freshman year and coaching two quarterbacks that turned out to be just system cues. You look at where Ole Miss it was in 2020 on. 2021, you had Matt Corral, who had kind of similar assets to a guy like Jackson Dart, not as big of an arm, but still a very talented quarterback nonetheless. But I just don't see Corral being the same type because he's a bit shorter and he's a bit lighter than a guy like Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart would be one of the first quarterbacks that Lane Kiffin has had as a head coach to be a first-round draft pick, if that's the case. I don't think it is going to happen this year, but I will commend Jackson on this. He showed out in his final year. I mean, when you talk about a guy that has nearly a 70% completion percentage, 4,200 passing yards, and 29 scores, not to mention the kid can run the football really well, 495 yards rushing and 3 scores. It's really impressive, to say the least. And I think that the kid can really do well as a quarterback, and I think that he can really, really succeed at the next level. But I just am not really convinced that he is a first-round draft pick. If he falls to the second round, I think he can be a steal. But I just don't see any team that's willing to pay first-round money for a guy like Jackson Dart. Okay, that's going to end it for today. Y'all have a great rest of the night. We'll see y'all all at some point. I'm going to try to do it tomorrow afternoon, a live show. If not, I'm going to try to see y'all on Friday or Saturday. If not, guys, we'll be back on Sunday for our UFL post-game show. Stay with us. We'll be back. We're going to be back tomorrow for some keys to victory for all games that'll be this week. Stay tuned. See you.